Hello, this is a brief introduction to Unix. I am not Sarah Medland. Usually she does this lecture every Monday morning at the live workshop. This is an abridged version of what she does to tell you some useful things to know for using Unix and the command line at this remote workshop. Every year she starts off by saying that the Linux we use is the Debian distribution. It's completely free if you would like to get it and use it for yourself. It's based on Unix, which has a long and venerable history. You can read about it on Wikipedia or any other place. This is the workshop cluster. It is the workshop laptops, which we usually use at the live course, stuck in these little vertical file folders and lined up on a table. It suits our purpose perfectly and is plenty powerful for what we need to do for the week. She starts off usually telling you about a big problem in Unix are the slashes. They are close but not the same. This one is called a backslash, and that is because in English, reading left to right, the top of the character is towards the back of the line. In this one, it's a front slash, forward slash because the top of the character moves forward down the line. On Unix, the forward slash is used as the directory separator. So when you're typing the names of directories, you will use the forward slash to distinguish between those. Backslash has some other purposes which we won't get into, but mostly you're going to want to use this forward slash, which is on your keyboard, usually below the question mark character. The backslash is usually near the enter character, below the enter key, below something called the pipe character, which we will talk about a little bit later. Even if you don't think you've ever used Unix, you actually probably have, whether it's some version of Linux, Mac operating system, some sort of Unix environment under Windows, an Android phone, actually an iOS Apple phone as well, or some of you might have used the terminal and command line Unix previously. File hygiene is very important. One thing to keep in mind is that Unix, Windows, and Mac all use different characters to signify the end of a line in a text file. Oftentimes this doesn't make any difference at all, but sometimes things can be picky. So there are these convenient commands, DOS to Unix, Unix to DOS, etc., to change the formats of those files. You may encounter this if you create a file on your home computer, which is a Mac or Windows machine, upload it to the workshop to use there, and you get some weird errors and stuff. You might need to run one of these on that file to fix the end-of-line characters. In Unix, the file names and directory names are case sensitive. So if you name something with a capital letter in it, you have to use that capital letter to refer to it in the future. For your own sake, don't put spaces in files and directory names. They are legal characters to have in files and directory names. They just become very inconvenient to type because you have to go through special escaping and such to tell whatever command you're using that that space doesn't mean, hey, this is a new argument or a new file, but that it's in fact part of the same file name. So the easiest thing is just simply don't use spaces at all, and instead use underscores or dashes to represent spaces in your directories and file names. Wildcards or shell globbing is also something very useful in Unix. You can use the asterisk or star to represent part of a file name, and the shell will then match the rest of that. So this star.dat would refer to any file in the current directory that happens to end in the .dat. And that can be useful when you want to perform the same action to lots of different files, such as delete a lot of different files. So we'll be working with the terminal. On the terminal, you have input, which are things you type, or it could be information from an existing file. Most commands, you will tell that command everything it needs to know on its command line. You tell it, hey, read this particular file. And exactly how you do that will depend on what actual program you're using. However, this, which we'll think of as an arrow, can be used to specify to move something into that command. So you could have a program and say, read the contents of this text file and give it to a particular program to do something with. Output. Generally, things will output directly to the screen. However, you can use this arrow coming out to direct that into a file. So the example here is echo this to a dummy file. Now echo this to a dummy file with the arrow will actually create a file. So we can look at what that will be like. So if I type echo some text, you see it'll appear right there. It'll just tell it back to me. But if I type echo some text, give it that arrow to some file, nothing happens. Well, it created a file. I can use ls to show what files I have, and I can see that now I have that somefile.txt. I can look and see what is in there, and hey, there's some text which I typed. That using this redirection of input and output can be extremely convenient, particularly with some programs that will just dump a lot of information to the screen that you couldn't possibly view all at once. And it will let you put it into a file, scroll through it later, search it for things of interest. You will be using this occasionally. It's extremely useful. The pipe character is similar in that it takes the output of one command and instead of putting it into a file, it sends it to another command. Example given here is pipe to more. And more is simply a program that will pause the output after one screen's worth, so you can look at it, then hit the spacebar, move to the next screen. You can chain together piping multiple commands with multiple input and output redirections to create some very complex workflows. Looking at the manual for commands is pretty easy. You just simply type man and then the name of the command you want to find out information about. A quick example. So I can type man ls and it will show me the instruction page for the ls command. Now this is extremely long, but there it is. It will give you more than you ever wanted to know about ls. Some useful one-liners. I've highlighted the few that I will talk about. CP is the command used to copy files. The way you use that is CP, the name of the file you want, the original file you want to copy, and the destination you want to copy it to. So let's see how we would do that for an actual case, because you will be using CP quite a bit to copy files from the faculty to your own account to then do things with them. CP, all of the faculty files are going to be in a directory called /faculty, so that's the /faculty / and then the name of the faculty member's account. Now, an extremely useful thing to do on the Unix command line is hit the tab key. That will complete the command, complete what you are typing if it can, or it might show you a list of options available. So there I type tab after faculty, and it shows me all the different things in there in the /faculty directory, all the other directories that I could now type. So I want to grab something from Sarah's account, so I can type a few letters, hit tab, and it's going to complete for me. Hit tab again and see what she has in there. I'll type 2020, tab again, see that list, Monday, tab again. So I want to copy this ozbmi.txt file, and I want to copy it to right here to the directory that I'm currently in. So I need to tell CP where to put it. Dot represents the directory that you are in. You could also type a different name, and it'll copy it over as a different name. So we'll do that, CP. Now I use ls to list the files in my current directory. You can see that I now have this bmi.txt file. It's possible to copy multiple things at a time. I can just show you something else there that's extremely convenient. That's hitting the up arrow to return to previous commands you've typed. That is also something that will save you a tremendous amount of time. So CP Monday, I could type star, and that will tell it to copy everything in that /Monday directory. I want to copy it all to here. So there those all are. Next thing we can talk about is MV for move. It is similar to CP in that it kind of has the same syntax of the origin and then the destination, except it will remove that origin copy of a file and leave you only with the destination version. This can also be thought of as a rename because it can change the name of a file without changing what directory it's in. So I can show you an example of that. Let's hit Control L to clear the screen, LS to show what files I have. I can do MV, the name of a file, use the tab key so I don't have to type it all. So let's move bmi.txt to my bmi.txt. Enter. You can see that it's renamed it or moved it, however you want to think about that. RM is used to delete a file. This is a permanent deletion, so only type it if you really need to get rid of something. So I can type rm, my bmi.txt, return, and you can see it's now gone. ls we've been using quite a bit. It will show you what files are there. It has a few options other than just simply typing ls to see what's there. Type ls-l, that'll give you the long form of the output. And so you can see several things here on the screen that we didn't see before. This first set of letters tells you if something is a file or a directory. If the very first character there is just simply a dash, it is a plain file. The first character is a D, then it's a directory. These other letters have to do with the permissions around that file, which we won't get into. This column shows you who owns that file. In this case, it's me, an account named student, and the group that owns that file, which is named students. Shows you the size of that file and the last date that it was modified, and then finally the name of the file itself. You can type the name of a directory after ls, and it will show you what is in that directory. So I can do ls faculty, and it will show me what's there. You can, of course, combine all these together, ls-l faculty. And so now it's going to tell me these are all directories. They're all owned by the people with the same name. So ls is extremely useful. Control L to clear my screen. Nano is a simple editor. We'll talk about that in a minute. And cd is the command that you use to change into a different directory. So, see in the terminal, this tilde here represents my home directory. So I am in my home directory. I can see it there. Use cd to change into another directory. You just type the name of that directory. Now you can see it's changed. Now I'm in the R directory. There's not much of interest there for us. If you just type cd all by itself, it takes you back to your home directory. Something that you may want to do is create a directory that uses the mkdir command. Type mkdir, the name of the directory you want to create. And you can see that I now have a new directory called 2021. And I want to organize some of my stuff, so I can say, let's move these files into the 2021 directory. MV will say, okay, here's a list of files. So it's going to move everything it sees on this part of the command line into the final destination. So you can see they've now moved out of this directory, cd 2021, ls. Here they are in the 2021 directory. So that's using cd and ls to move around. Looking at your data, the most useful command to use to look at text files in Unix is something called less, which is a pun on more, which was mentioned previously, and that less is more capable than more. Let's look at an example of that. Bring back up our terminal. And let's see what's in this ozbmi2 file. So I type less, the name of the file I want to look at. I can use the tab key so I don't have to type all those letters. Enter. Here we are. So it's showing me everything in this file. You can use the arrow keys to scroll one line at a time. Use the space bar to scroll a page at a time. Press the B key to scroll backwards, back up the file a page at a time. And another very useful command within less is to use the / to search for something. So I want to search for NA /NA. It's going to move me down to the first line where it finds that and highlight what it found. I can then press the N key to go to the next item. And I can keep moving down, finding all those NAs. If you are done using less, you're done looking at your file, just press Q to quit out. We can look at this file as well. There it is. We can scroll down using the arrow keys, scroll back up, and Q to get back out. Less is extremely useful, and you'll probably find that you're using it quite a bit at the workshop. A few options you can use with less. If you tell it -S and then the file name, it will let that file run off the right side of the screen. So if you're looking at something with extremely long lines in it, or extremely wide lines in it, rather, this will just show it to you one line at a time instead of wrapping those lines around. This can be very useful sometimes when you just want to see the beginning of a file that's very wide. zless allows you to look at a file that's been compressed with gzip. Those will usually have a .gz suffix on them. And so instead of having to decompress the file before looking at it, you can just run zless, which will do that all for you. Now let's talk about nano. Nano is an extremely simple text editor that you can use to change files right in your Unix terminal. So to run it, you type nano and then in the name of the file that you want to edit. Let's bring that up. So I can type nano first R, and I use tab so I don't have to type all those letters. And so here it's showing me the file, and I can move down to what I want to change. So it's got some read tables and stuff here. Oh, spaces don't matter, but I just think that looks ugly. I'm going to put a space there. Now I want to save the file. So I can say Control X to exit, and it will say save the modified buffer. Buffer just refers to this area up here where the text is. Say yes, save that file. Sometimes you want to say no because you're like, oh no, I didn't actually mean to make any of those changes. And you can hit Control C if you want to cancel the change, it cancel out and just not do anything. Go back to where you were. If you want to save the file without exiting, you can say Control O to write out the file. And it'll say file name to write. Gives the name there. You could give it a different name, I suppose, if you wanted. Hit enter, and it will save that file. This wrote 75 lines. There are a few other commands at the bottom that you can use, but we can be done. Control X to exit. It knows that there's nothing more to save, so it just dumps me right out. You can use nano to create a file as well. Just give it what name you want to use. Nano myfile.txt, enter. Now let's type some text into my file. Then I just want to save and exit. Control X. Do I want to save it? Yes. Save it to myfile.txt. Done. Now I can go less myfile.txt, and we can see there's what I typed in it. Some other useful bits that you might find convenient at the workshop, running programs in the background. Sometimes some of the commands you will use will run for a long time processing data. So it's useful to end those commands with an ampersand. That will tell the system to put that command, run that command in the background and return you to a command prompt immediately. If for some reason you want to get that back into the foreground, you can type FG to bring it back to the foreground. Let's see an example of that. I will use a pointless command called sleep and tell it sleep 30 seconds. And if I type that here, you can see it's just going to wait 30 seconds before it returns. Control C is very useful. That will kill what's happening if you decided it's something you don't want to happen. But I can type sleep. Let's make that 5 seconds. Put an ampersand. Now you see I'll get a command prompt back immediately. It will tell me there it's put something in the background. I can type jobs to see what's there. And it says, oh, done. Sleep 5 seconds. Waited 5 seconds and completed. You probably won't have any reason to use the actual sleep command, but the same thing would apply for Plink, GCTA, other things that you will actually be running this week. It's also extremely convenient if you want to run something at one terminal, to run a command in one terminal, open up a different terminal to look at output, open up a third terminal to edit things, you can open up a fourth terminal to look at more stuff. That's an extremely convenient way of doing things. So if you ever find yourself sitting waiting for a command to complete and you want to do something else, just open up a different terminal. Exiting your Unix session when you're all done, you can type various commands such as exit, log out, quit. My favorite is Control D because that's nice and quick. Control-C. So when you're all done using a terminal, you could type Control-D and it will exit you out of that. One final thing to look at is the relationship between files at the command line and in RStudio. Type ls, see there are my files. If I bring up my RStudio window, you can see there is this panel in RStudio that shows my files. I need to hit this little curly arrow over here to refresh that window. There's my stuff. I can go into that folder. So you can see what is viewable in RStudio is exactly the same as we see on the command line. There's some files in the command line view, and there are files in the RStudio view. They are exactly, so you're looking at the exact same thing, just different perspectives on it. If you want to download one of these files to your local computer, you just hit the check box next to the file, come over to More, do Export, and it will download it as that name, download, and then your browser will offer to save that in wherever your browser saves things. If you want to download multiple files, you can check all of the ones that you want to download, More, Export. It's then going to download a zip file that contains all of those files. If instead you would rather upload something, you can click on Upload. You can browse to the place you want to put something. This says, go back up here. So I just want to put it there in my home directory. So I'll choose that. Browse for the file I want to upload. That looks good. And OK, uploading a file. And you can see if I go back up here to my home directory, that the file I uploaded is there. And if I come over to my command line, go back to my home directory, ls, that I also can see the file here. So if you have questions, please post them into the technical support or the appropriate group on Slack. I will also post links to some more in-depth Unix tutorials from around the internet. All right, thank you.